Hi, my name is Edward Kwong. Today, I'm going to show you how to install Elliott 8.5. So to install Elliott 8.5, you must first, of course, download the installation package, right? If you are one of our users, we will already provide you with a link to download. Now, there's a couple of requirements. First, you must do the installation on the P-SQL database server, and your server must be Windows Server 2012 and up. You need to log in as an admin or equivalent to have sufficient right to do the installation, and you must have a network shell already created, and then lastly, if we are installing to a the Elliott directory that already exists, and then there's already registration in that Elliott installation, then you must make sure that the registration is not expired. And so to install the Elliott 8.5, and of course, we assume that you have downloaded the Elliott 8.5 exe already, and then you will first make sure that you install to the equivalent local path of the network map drive path. I will, talk about that a little bit more later in the demo, okay? And then so just keep that in mind. And the second, okay, is there's a two type of installation. One is you already have Elliott, and then we consider that's an update, and we make some update to your folder, and then we need to make sure that your maintenance is not expired before we can install the update for you. And then the second scenario is this is a new installation, and then in the new installation situation, and we just consider, let's say, suppose your Elliott directory doesn't even exist, and in that situation, then we say, oh, this is a new installation. And then basically all the Elliott folder and file will be installed in this situation. And then after the installation and the Elliott configuration utility will show up and then ask you to set it up. And today our demo is actually for new installation. And after you install the Elliott, and then if this is the first time, and a new installation, and then you need to create the Elliott desktop icon, and we will show you how to do that. And then you will do that on the server, and you will also do that on each one of your workstation. And then finally, we will start up Elliott and then show you, how to log in, how to navigate, and we will also explain some of the Elliott folder data structure, and so you get some idea about that. So with that, okay, I am going to give you a demo how to do the installation. And well, first of all, okay, we already download the Elliott 8.5. And so this is the Elliott 8.5 installation. And now when we click on this one, and then to get the installation start, and it will ask you to grant the admin right to the installation processing. And so now, okay, it asks you to confirm to say, hey, do you want to install the Elliott 8.5D.907 in this case? And we just say, yeah, next, okay. And it basically wants you to read the license agreement, and well, we're just going to accept the term and next. And so now this is going to ask you for the path, right? Just speaking, this path most likely 99% is wrong, okay? And then so you need to change it. So, well, you need to change it to where, okay? Now, so this is basically, I talked about earlier, the local path, okay, of your Elliott installation. Now, I want to bring up this Window Explorer and then show you that I already have a network drive, which is we call M drive, okay? And this is where I'm going to install the Elliott 2. But I cannot directly install into the M drive. And I need to install to the local drive instead. So now the M drive is a map drive to this machine and to the ACCT shell. Where's my ACCT shell? Okay, it's actually on the D drive, okay? And over here, ACCT. So I need to actually install into my DACCT, which is equivalent to install into the N drive. But I cannot install to the network drive. I need to install to my local drive. So that's the key point that you guys need to be aware of. So now that's back to the installation. So what I'm going to do is this, okay, I'm going to go to the D drive, and I'm going to go to the ACCT, and I'm going to type the folder I'm going to install to. So now in this case, I'm going to install, enter into the Elliott 8, okay? It can be any folder. And so I'm going to say, okay. Now, after you do this, and then the system says, Elliott, it doesn't actually exist. So this is the new installation. On the other hand, if you select a folder that already exists, then it will consider this is update installation. So the same installation package can be used for both update and the new installation. So next, and then I'm going to say this is a typical installation, and I'm going to install, and then this will go through. Now, of course, before you do this installation, you need to make sure your PC core is already installed on the server, okay? And which we require that. Okay, so bring up the Elliott configuration utility. The first thing is say, okay, what is your license key? You don't have to enter it, because if you don't enter the license key, it becomes a demo mode, okay? The demo mode will have some restriction, and then, which is I'm not going to talk in detail right now. So at the moment, I'm just not going to enter the license key at the moment. There's another one that you need to worry, which is on the email tab. So in the email tab, you need to say, how do you intend to send the email? Either you're going to send SMTP, which is the default, or you can use the mapping method. And if you use the SMTP method, you have more information to fill in, like what is your SMTP server and the port number, etc. And do you need to authenticate it? And then what is the admin email, etc. Now, so that's on setup. If you don't know that information, then you need to talk to your IT to get that information. But in this case, okay, I'm not going to use the default SMTP. I'm going to use the mapping because it's easier. When I use mapping, there's really nothing need to be done. And so I'm just going to finish it. Okay, so I'm done with the installation. So now, since I'm done with the installation, and then the next question is, how do I run Elliott, right? And if you search, and then you will find out that, well, okay, there's nothing, you can run, okay, with Elliott. So what happened at this moment is even though we install Elliott to the, now this is a D drive ACCT, but I need to really go to the M drive because I intend to run Elliott from the M drive. And all your workstation need to be run from the M drive as well. So what will happen is I will navigate to my map network drive, which is M in this case. And then I will go to the Elliott A folder. I will go to my bin A folder. And then what will happen is I will find something called ELA50 exe. I need to click on this executable. This will create the desktop icon for Elliott. It will also copy the Elliott bin A5 folder to my local drive. So from that point on, I will be running from Elliott from my local instead of running from the network. Okay, and then, well, it's good this way because then whenever you're trying to execute something, if you don't need to execute from the network path, it's actually have a lot of advantage in terms of performance as well. Also on the security side, it's also easier to handle. Okay, so I'm gonna click on this EL850.exe, which it will create my run local. Okay, so they said, all right, your network folder is Android Elliott A bin A5. And then it suggests my local folder is user EMK and da 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 da, etc. Okay. Now the I can change it, but I suggest you don't do anything. Okay. And then you could just basically get Elliott 8.5 shortcut on the desktop, or you can, let's say, for example, if you choose, say you want to do export processor, you want to do mass email, and then maybe you want to do deferred processing, you can put those on the desktop icon as well. But I'm not going to do those right now. Okay, so I'm just going to say keep the Elliott 8.5 main exe, and I'm going to say create. So at this moment, you see the progress bar, right? It's actually copying the Elliott A5 folder from the network to my local path. And then once that is done, it will create a desktop icon to, well, okay, this is actually done, okay? And because what happened is, this is new, okay? This Elliott A5, if you look at it, is actually pointing to the local path. So I'm running my Elliott from local, even though my master folder is on the network drive, on the end drive, okay? But when I run it from this local, and then whenever I need to accessing the data, I'm actually accessing from the network drive. Earlier I said, oh, this is a demo, right? And then you see there's some restriction on the day, and then and report are limited to 10 pages, etc. And at this moment, password is not turned on. So by default, I'm just logging as a supervisor. I'm going to say OK. So it stopped. OK. This is company 00. OK. And then you can just expand it, and you can expand it, and then you can just basically select the particular function you want to run, and then go from there. OK. And now company 00 is a tutorial company. So I'm going to show you on the folder structure so you get some idea, okay? And earlier we talked about this Elliott A folder, right? I choose to install into this folder. You see there's a tutorial folder, right? Tutorial folder contain the database we are using. Now, if let's say I want to create a new company, what do? I can actually just copy from tutorial. Let's just suppose I'm going to do a copy, okay? Well, the copy is this one, and I'm going to do a paste, okay? And it will paste to a new folder, okay? And well, tutorial already exists. So it would call this tutorial copy, but I'm going to just call this data. Well, excuse me, okay, data. All right, so once I do that, okay, if I click on Elliott 8.5, and you see that in I have the company 00. Could you this one represent the tutorial? This one represent data folder. Okay, and well, how many data folder can I have? Well, I will show you. Okay, and so I go back to the M drive, and now see I have the data folder right now, right? So the data right now basically represent company 1. And if I want to do another copy, and basically I want to paste it, and and then and of course, I don't want to use the data copy. Instead, I want to use the data underscore. Let's say I call it 99. It basically meaning company 99. I can have all the way from company 1, which is data, company 2 is data underscore 02, 03, all the way up to 99. So I can have a 99 company, and that's basically a multi-company feature. Okay, now why do you want to use multiple company? Well, let's say sometimes you use it for historical purpose. Sometimes maybe you really have a multiple company, and then so this is a company 99. Okay, and maybe you will not use a copy method to create your various company. Maybe you would create it from scratch, and then but that's a different subject. We're not going to talk about that. And then so you get some understanding on how the Elliott data structure is like right now. Okay, and other than that, there's just a few important folder. The bin A5 is an important folder. The data folder are important folder. Data are where the data reside. And then the bin A5 is where all the executable reside. And what happened right now is you also need to go to every single one of your workstation and then make sure the PSQL client is installed and then map the M drive. Okay, you must use the same drive ladder. Okay, so you map the M drive and then to the server and share. Okay, and then once you map the M drive, and then you can just go to the Elliott A folder and then go to the bin A5 folder, and then you will say, okay, I'm going to run this guy to basically create your run local folder and then create a desktop icon. From that point up, you can just run the Elliott on that local workstation, just like I just showed you. So that's the end of the presentation, and thank you for watching, and you have a nice day.